Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I want to talk to you a little bit about my workflow when I shoot football games, and in particular shooting high school football games or youth football games. Not so much professional football, because that's a whole different ball game that you're talking about, because I actually find high school to be the most challenging thing to shoot because you've got lighting issues, something that college and professional photographers don't really have to deal with much, because their events are so well lit, because they have to be lit for television, that they can keep their ISOs down and their shutter speeds high, and they've got the best equipment in the world to make sure they get the best images in the world. So this video is directed towards the mom or dad or aunt or uncle who is out trying to get some great images of their kids playing football on Saturday. So it's kind of directed towards the equipment that you should have, and if you don't have, you should be looking at getting. Talking about camera gear, the number one recommended lens that I make to people who want to get involved in sports photography is a 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 lens. It's a little bit on the short side for football. If you can afford a 300 millimeter lens, by all means you will love shooting football with it, but it's not absolutely necessary, especially if you're shooting on a crop framed camera body. The 200 millimeter lens is now effectively a 320 millimeter lens, and it works pretty well for football. If you're on a full frame body, 70 to 200 is probably just going to be too short. You're going to spend most of the game waiting for the plays to come to you. So I would recommend, if you're on a full frame camera, getting a longer lens or actually going with the crop sensor body. My workflow varies a little bit depending on why I'm there to shoot an event. If I'm there shooting an event for let's say a sports news website, then I'm kind of focused on making sure that I get the key moments of the game. If I'm there shooting for a specific team because I've been hired by that team to photograph them, then obviously my concentration is going to be on that team. Or if I've been hired to shoot a specific player, it's going to be on that player. But typically what I do is, with most events, regardless of the reason why I'm there, I try to shoot everything, and the reason for that is after I'm done shooting the game, I'm going to go back and upload them into an online gallery, which I use SmugMug. There's other ones that are out there, and then that way parents can come in later and purchase prints if they want. So I usually try to shoot a little bit of everything. So my standard workflow is I try to get to the game a few minutes before it's going to start, because I want to try to get shots of the players coming out of the tunnels. I love getting the shots of the players when they're lined up for the national anthem, things like that. So I always try to make sure I get there early. My camera settings, I usually use a fluorescent white balance, and for the most part that works pretty well. Some schools you might have to make some minor adjustments to it. If I'm shooting during a day game, which would mostly apply to your youth sports that take place on Saturday mornings, I'm going to use just the auto white balance and let the camera take care of it. The big problem that you have when you're shooting high school sports is going to be your shutter speed. A lot of people say with sports you need to be above 1/1000th of a second shutter speed to freeze the action, and yes, that is ideal. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get those numbers at most high school fields. They're simply too dark. So you're going to have to push your ISO up. Most high school fields I'm shooting at a 6400 ISO, and my shutter speed will fluctuate depending on the school itself and how well their lighting is. I am typically in the 400 to 500 range for your older high school fields, and for the newer schools I can usually get about 640, maybe 800 ISO. My goal is to get to ISO of 640, and if I can reach that, I may bring my ISO back down a little bit to try to eliminate some noise. That's just kind of my preference, because at 640 you can pretty much freeze the action. You might get a little bit of motion blur, especially with quarterbacks throwing the ball. You might get some motion blur in the arm and things like that. But for the most part, on the tackles and the runs, you're going to be okay. Now, shooting positions is something that I see a lot of people who are out on the sidelines making mistakes of. They tend to be too far away from the action. The old saying is you want to be 10 yards ahead of a good team and 10 yards behind a bad team when you're photographing football. That way the action is always coming towards you. While that is a good philosophy, my workflow is a little bit different. The way that I usually shoot is the first half of the game, I try to stay either at the line of scrimmage or 10 yards in front of the offense. That way I'm getting shots of all the players coming towards me. When I'm at the line of scrimmage, I can usually get shots of the quarterback as he drops back to throw. Maybe if the defender makes a good play in the backfield, I can get that shot as well. Talking about the quarterback, you want to make sure that you are on the sideline for whichever hand the quarterback throws the ball with. So if the quarterback's right-handed, when he's under center, you want to make sure you're on his right-hand side. If he's left-handed, you want to be on the left side of the field. The reason for that is as the quarterback drops back to throw, he's going to have the ball and he's going to turn to his right if he's right-handed, or he's going to turn to his left if he's left-handed. So if you're on the right-hand side of the field, when he goes to throw the ball, he's going to be open towards you. It's going to make a much better shot than if he were behind you when he throws. Yes, sometimes quarterbacks will throw the ball to the opposite side of the field, but for the most part, a right-handed quarterback, when he throws the ball, he's going to be facing towards the right, and when he rolls out, he's going to usually roll to his right because that's his strong hand. So you're going to have the action coming towards you. The other thing that I do is I try to watch the quarterback on passing plays. Most high school quarterbacks, because it is such a difficult position to play, most of them are not able to go through a progression of receivers. And when I say that, your better high school quarterbacks, your college and pro quarterbacks, they will look for a receiver to throw the ball to. If the first receiver is not open, they'll look to the second receiver, the third receiver, and then maybe dump the ball to the running back if nobody's open. Most high school quarterbacks, they look at the guy they're going to throw the ball to as soon as the ball is snapped. So I usually watch the quarterback, see who he's looking at, and then I try to find that receiver in the viewfinder so I can try to get that shot before the ball gets there, as he's jumping up to make the catch or as the defender's jumping in to knock the ball down. If I wait until the quarterback lets go of the ball to try to find that receiver, odds are I'm going to end up missing the shot because I'm not going to find them quick enough, and if I do, I'm not going to be able to get locked on focus quick enough. Your better quarterbacks, it's going to be a very big challenge because they can actually go through a progression, and you can't really rely on following their eyes to figure out where they're going to throw the ball until it's too late. On a really good passing team, what I'll do is I'll usually just find the best receiver, kind of the go-to guy, and in a passing situation where I kind of think they're going to throw the ball, and I just start following that receiver as soon as the ball is snapped and hope for the best that the ball gets thrown to him. And then that way I can kind of ensure that I get at least a couple of good passing shots. So that's kind of my first half of the game. I follow the action, I follow the ball as much as I can. Usually at halftime, there's going to be like a halftime show. If I don't take off to go get something to eat, I'll usually try to get some pictures of the cheerleaders at halftime. Then you get into the third quarter, and that's kind of where I spend my time being creative and kind of trying to get some different kinds of shots. The first half is my baseline of shots that I make sure I get the safe shots. The third quarter, I'll take pictures of the crowd, I'll make sure I get the cheerleaders, maybe some pictures of the coaches, and I'll try to get creative with some shots. Maybe if there's a full moon in the background, maybe I'll try to incorporate that into a shot of the whole field, or I'll try to get shots of specific players if I haven't, and I'll also really focus on getting shots of the defense. And to get the shots of the defense, I'll stay behind the offense and try to get the defenders coming towards me so I can get good shots of them rushing the quarterback, making tackles, things like that. The fourth quarter, it kind of depends on how the game is going as to what I'm going to shoot. If it's a blowout and you've got second string players in there, I'll usually just try to focus on getting those second string players because they just don't get their pictures taken very much. I also focus in the third and fourth quarter on getting pictures of offensive linemen. Those guys don't get their pictures taken very often, so when you do get a good shot of them, they're very appreciative of it, and they tend to buy those pictures simply because they're really overlooked in football. If it's a close game in the fourth quarter, I'm usually going to try to be focused on the action so I can make sure I get that key play in the game. The one mistake that I see a lot of people making when they shoot high school football is they are not getting in tight enough with their shots. I have people bring me pictures all the time and ask me how I think they're doing, and it's usually the same thing. They've got a shot where they're zoomed all the way out, they've got all 22 players in the shot, all 4 referees, and part of the sidelines. And I'll tell them, well, you need to zoom in more, get in tight on the action, try to fill the frame with the player. And they always tell me the same thing, well, it's hard to keep track of the ball when you're zoomed all the way in. And it is hard. That's the reason why not everybody in the world is a sports photographer. Now, with practice, anybody can do it. If I can learn to do it, anybody can learn to do it, but it will take some time. And you also have to understand, as one photographer out on the sidelines, you just will not get every key play in the game. It's not a reality. So once you understand that and you start shooting tight and you understand you're going to miss shots, then it'll really help you to focus on filling the frame and getting really good shots. There's a reason why, like, Sports Illustrated sends 3 or 4 photographers to the Super Bowl, and that's because they know that one photographer, no matter how good he is, best equipment in the world, can't get every shot in a game. So that's why they make sure they've got plenty of people there from plenty of angles to ensure they get those shots. Now, the lighting is a big issue at high school football games. I don't really like shooting a lot with flash at high school football games because I don't really like the way the images come out looking, but at times I do. One of the issues with using flash, even if you're using a bracket to get the flash off the camera and above it, is the pupils are so dilated that you're getting up with red eye or reflections in the eye, which are kind of a pain to clean up post-process, which is one of the reasons why I don't like to use flash unless I absolutely have to, and I pretty much limit it down to the end of the field. One of the reasons why I love shooting football is the players are very emotional. High school boys tend to try to always be cool and not show a lot of emotion. So even in other sports, they tend to be kind of, I don't want to say boring to watch, but they tend to not react much to a lot of different events in the game. With football, you've got a large crowd that's usually into the game, the coaches are usually yelling and pumped up, and it flows all the way down to the players. So the players get very emotional. So make sure that when you're shooting the game that you're getting pictures of the celebrations, getting pictures of the coaches when they're celebrating, especially towards the end of a close game. You'll get all of the players pouring off the sidelines, and those are usually the images that are most requested for people to buy from me, are those emotional kind of touching moments. I get a lot of requests if I get a picture of a coach talking to a player on the sidelines, just a one-on-one conversation. A lot of parents want to buy those pictures. A buddy of mine calls those mommy pictures, because usually most high school football coaches have a very good connection with their kids. So to have that kind of intimate, maybe intimate moment's not the right word for it, but that intimate moment where, you know, a coach is one-on-one with the player, it's kind of special to the family because usually that coach has had a big impact on that kid's life. So make sure you try to capture the emotions of the game. The last thing with shooting football is the post-processing. Now, I hear a lot of professional photographers saying, I don't crop, you should get it right in camera. And yes, that is nice to do. The reality with shooting a sport like football is it's, in my opinion, I think it's impossible to always get nice, tight, properly framed shots every time. So I think if you're not cropping your images, you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, you shouldn't have to excessively crop, but on occasion you might have to. There's a lot of times where there's a long passing play and I'm a ways off and I'm really too far away to take the shot, but I take it. And so then I've got the decision of, do I heavily crop this image, which is going to distort it, or do I just not do anything with it? So in that situation, usually what I'll do is I'll go ahead and crop it if it's a really strong image. And what I do a lot of times with those kind of images and any other images that I get that I really like that are maybe out of focus is I'll convert them to black and white. That kind of hides some of the poor image quality a little bit, and then people really like buying powerful black and white images, so they sell a lot, even though those images weren't necessarily technically the best pictures I took in camera. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. If you guys have any questions about shooting football or any other sport, please leave me a comment below. I'm going to be doing a whole series on how I shoot different sports. So if you like this video and you like my other videos, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching and have a great day.